and welcome to Key Stage 3 English, telling the story on narrative devices. So let's have a look and see what this is all about. So when you tell a story, you choose your narrative devices, or if you don't know what it means, then this is what you're supposed to do. So a narrative viewpoint is the point of view from which you tell the story. So these narrative viewpoints are as follows. So you can either reveal or withhold information. So the reader is basically in your hands, and you can control the reader as and how you wish. So tenses in narrative devices are also very important. So you'll probably use the past tense, but you could also use the present tense. And finally, the pace of the narrative story. So you can vary it both by what happens and by your focus. For example, you might focus very closely on someone diffusing a bomb and you're describing it in a lot of detail. So that's entirely up to you. So a narrative viewpoint is the viewpoint from which you tell the story. That can also be a first-person technique. That can be a second or a third-person technique, and that's entirely up to you. In narrative devices, character is also very important. So character can be revealed in several ways. So it can be in the form of commentary. So for example, Dana was a happy-go-lucky girl who thought that, and so on and so on. So this way you're commenting on Dana and what she does or what she thought. Iqbal, for example, left the other toffee for his grandmother. This is what characters are actually physically doing. And what they say in the dialogue is also very important within the character narrative devices. So I don't take kindly to being made a fool of. And that's obviously in inverted commas speech marks because that's a dialogue. And the first person narrative, you're going to be using words like I, me, my, see, and so on. This reveals that the narrator's character by how he or she actually tells a story. And this is something that we discussed in terms of the first person narrative. Point number 3, now you can see narrative devices in the form of action. So let's give you some example. So Aaron gets the sharp end of the bar in between the manhole and the cobbles. He has very little time. Already he hears dogs barking, cries in Yiddish, orders spoken sharply in German. Working the tip into the crack, he levers up the cover by 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, gets his fingers on the lip and pulls. He barely notices a face at a window watching as the cover heaves up, or the reek as it does. Later, too late, he will recall that face. He slides the cover aside, fearfully slots himself into the gap, clinging to a rusting ladder with one hand and scraping the cover back into place with the other. Darkness, pounding his heart. The dogs are close now, marching boots, German voices above him. His grandmother used to say, in the darkness, hope, he lets go of the rung and falls. So in this particular narrative device, we're looking at some serious action taking place here in point number 3. So we're talking about Aaron here within our action and what's going on around him in terms of the German soldiers and the speech that he can hear in the background. The fact that, they're trying to maybe chase him, or he's trying to avoid the Germans, maybe in the Second World War. We're not sure, but that's the assumption that we kind of get from these actions as well. There's various things going on. He remembers his grandma saying, especially at the time when he's in trouble, he's actually in physical need of help. And there is a threat coming his way, whether it's the Germans, soldiers in this case, or possibly the dogs barking or coming towards him. So this is entirely up to you. When you tell a story, you've got to use the devices of the narrative structure, whether it's through first person, second or third person technique, whether it's through tenses, whether it's revealing or withholding information, whether it's the speed of the pace or the actions that are actually taking place. And don't forget the commentary as well. That's very, very important. And the dialogue. And point number 3 gives you a very good idea of what this all is all about. So as an author, as a writer, you are in charge of how your story is told. You choose the viewpoint, how you will reveal and withhold information, the tense, the pace and focus, and how to show the characters. So just by going into more information on this, we've got some questions for you to answer in terms of a comprehension task. Please do look at those questions. And again, like usual, we'll follow these up in our next lesson. Good luck.